for the lower body. It's a basic intro map. It's one that I use before going for a run or a bike ride, or one that I use after. So if you feel any tension, pain, muscle tightness in your glutes, in your hips, in your knees, or your lower leg, then this is a great melt map for you to do. So the very first thing we want to do is what's called a rest assess, so that we become aware of where stuck stress lies in your body. So you're going to lie down on your back, your palms are facing the ceiling, your legs are extended and a little bit apart. First thing we do is close our eyes, and you want to give yourself permission to drop inside your body and get a sense of your body sense. Noticing where stuck stress lives in your body, and also looking at the 4 common muscle imbalances. So the first place we want to check is your shoulder girdle. So notice where you're weighted on your shoulder blades. Ideally, your shoulder blades are flat and grounded to the mat. If you have stuck stress in your shoulder girdle, you might feel like you're tipped back towards the top of your shoulder blades, or you might notice that the bones of your shoulder blades are poking into the ground, or you may feel like you're weighted different from one side shoulder blade to the other. You may also feel like one arm is longer than the other arm. Turn your head to the right and left, and just notice if you feel any restrictions in your neck and any difference from one side to the other. These are all signs that you have stuck stress in your shoulder girdle. The second place is in your diaphragm, and that's going to affect your rib wall. So we want to notice if, ideally, your ribs are nice and grounded to the mat, and you have what we call a low back curve, where the apex of your curve is opposite your belly button. If you have stuck stress in your diaphragm, you might feel like the curve of your spine goes from your pelvis all the way to your shoulder blades, in which case you would have what we call a whole back curve instead of a low back curve. Third is in your pelvis, which is the area we're going to focus on today. And here you want to notice if you have ideally equal weight on your 2 butt cheeks. If you have stuck stress in your pelvis, you might notice that your tailbone, you're tipped a little more down towards your tailbone, or that you're more just sitting on your sacrum as opposed to your tissue. How you are in your pelvis will determine how your legs leave your body. So ideally, the back of your thighs or masses are gently weighted to the floor. The back of your knees, which are spaces, are lightly lifted up off the floor. You're weighted slightly to the lateral side of your calves and slightly to the lateral side of your heel, and your toes would be pointed to where the wall and the ceiling meet. Finally, come back up to your torso, and now we want to check how efficiently your autopilot is functioning today. Divide your body into a left and right, and here notice if you feel that you have ideally equal weight on the right and left sides of your body, or perhaps you might feel like you're a little heavier weighted to one side than the other, or that one arm or leg feels longer than the other. These are all signs that your center of gravity or your body's autopilot isn't functioning as optimally as it could be. So we're going to have you bend your knees, take a focused breath in, roll onto your side, and come up to a seated position. So we're going to take your melt roller and we're going to put it crosswise on your mat. Sitting behind your mat, you're just going to prop yourself up on top. You're going to sit your feet just about hip width or comfortably apart, fingertips in front, and we're going to start gliding forward and back over your sits bones. Here, all you want to notice is, do you feel that you're running over your sits bones evenly, or does it feel like you're going over one before the other, so it's feel like a clunk clunk? Or you may notice that one sits bone is sitting deeper or further down than the other, in which case there's an indication that your pelvis might be tipped a little like so. Bring your sits bones to the foot side of your roller, so you're tucking under, activating your core, and you're going to take your hands down to the mat, hands about as wide as the roller, fingers pointing to the side. Now the weight of your pelvis is on the roller, your abdominals are drawn in, and we go into what we call your tail triangle glide. So here you're stopping before you come off your sacrum. On the up and on the down, you want to stop before you come onto your tailbone. Here we're bringing hydration and fluid flow into your sacrum, where we have many nerves that come out of your sacrum, and we also have lymphatics that come out of our sacrum as well. Now tip your knees to the left and just swirl around the left side of your sacrum and your glutes. Here again, we're bringing hydration up into the SI joint and the lower back as well. And then we're going to take your knees to the right and just swirl around there. When we're gliding, the consistency of the pressure on the roller is most important. And we also want to notice if we feel any points of tenderness. Good. Now I'm just going to move up so I'm a little more centered on the camera and the mat. So now we're going to tip our knees back to the left. We're going to step the left foot out. I'm going to come up a little higher so the weight of my pelvis is on the roller and place my right hand on my knee. And as I go into my glide, I want to glide around just bumping up against my sits bone. This is a really important area where our glutes cross over the hip joint and then where our hamstrings come up and attach on the upper side of the sits bones or ischial-tuberosity. So you just want to look again for any points of tenderness. And if you find some, then you just want to tighten the glide up around that area. If you feel a tender point, you don't want to barrel over it. You just want to meet against it. So you're bumping up against it as if you're kneading the tension out. You can now step your foot in, let your hip open. Notice I'm still quite upright in my body as opposed to back here. And now I'm going to go into what I call my deep hip. So now I'm bumping up my greater trochanter and I'm working through my deep external hip rotators. Again, when we're gliding, we're exploring and preparing the tissue for the shear. And so if you find a place that feels tender, you're just going to tighten up the glide there a little bit. And with melt, we get in, get out. So think of everything being about 3 breaths. Then we stop and we go into our shear where you're going to open and close your hip. Good. And then you wait. You take a focused breath in and then you exhale. Now we're going to stay on this side and go right into our side hip. So you're going to straighten your left leg out. You're going to come down onto your forearm and tip over onto your side hip. So I'm on my pelvis. I'm above my greater trochanter. So on the underside, this is my greater trochanter, and I want to be on my pelvis side. So now we're in the area of your piriformis, your glute med, your gluteus minimus. And again, we want to explore with the glide. So as I'm gliding, I want the pressure of my body against the roller to be consistent in both directions. You can look a little higher up on the pelvis. You can tip back a little bit. So you can explore and see what's going on in your body. Again, you're looking for places that feel tender because that's where stuck stress lives. That's where there's dehydration of the tissue. And we want to bring some fluid flow back to that area. So we've explored, you've tipped back a little, you've tipped forward, you've gone a little high on the pelvis, a little low. And once you find a spot that feels tender, you're just going to be there, tighten up the glide a little bit for about 3 breaths. From there, we can stop. This leg stays straight, and you're just going to tip your pelvis forward and back over the roller for your shear. So when I glide, the roller is moving underneath me. When we shear, the roller is still, and I'm moving my body over the roller. Then we wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Good. And then just gently slide off the roller. So let's do the other side. For the sake of the camera, I'm just going to turn my body so that I'm facing you. And then again, we get ourselves on. We've got our sits bones on the feet side of the roller, and we're sitting more upright than back. I'm going to take my right foot, step it out, and I'm going to start my glide towards my sits bone. And once again, I'm exploring. Feeling where the glute comes to the sits bone, feeling where my hamstring comes and attaches above the sits bone, and looking for any place of tenderness. If I find it, I tighten up my glide and I just bump up against it. We want to get, again, press it out versus barreling over top. We want to knead it out, knead it out. From here, you can step your foot in, let this hip relax, and now we go into what's called your deep hip. And same thing, we just change our positions just a little bit. so that we can find a part of tenderness. Once you find that, tighten up the glide just for about 3 breaths. Always be mindful of the rest of your body, shoulders relaxed, core engaged, and your breathing. From there, we stop and we fan our hip, and this is our shear. Good. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Wonderful. Straighten your leg out, come down onto your forearm, roll over onto your side hip. So again, we're on the pelvis. We want to be where the gluteus medius, minimus, piriformis areas are. I'm not on my thigh. I'm on my glute on the side. So once again, explore the whole up and down of the pelvis. You can tip forward a little bit. You can tip back. You're keeping the consistency of the glide, of the pressure of the glide present. Good. And we're looking for a point of tenderness. Once you find a spot you want to work on, you're going to just focus your glide right there. Make sure whatever tenderness you feel is tolerable. If it's really painful and you're holding your breath, just move the position a little bit so it's tolerable. We stop, our leg is straight, you tip your pelvis forward and back. And this is our shear. And then we wait. Focus breath in, give the tissue time to adapt. And then you exhale. Good. And then slide off. So now we'll go into our back of thigh shear. If you're like me and you're on a mat, you can move down so that your heels are on the floor so that when we do this, you don't rub up against the mat, just for smoothness. And you're going to place the roller just at the lower glutes on the upper hamstring and lie back. Now, for the back of thigh shear, we can do both legs at one time where you're opening your hip and then turning your hip in. You can also just take one leg off to the side and do one leg at a time, which I quite like because depending on how much you're going to do, this is a shorter mat, we can get some nice friction here at the inner thigh and the outer thigh. Switch to the other leg. But you can choose whatever feels better for you. If you like the feeling of both legs moving together, then definitely that's a great choice. Notice that my leg is heavy and it's relaxed and my heel is on the floor. Then we wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Next, take the roller, move it down to mid-hamstring and do the same thing. Again, you can do both legs together where you turn the hips out and let the heels just slide along the floor, and then you turn the hips in. The more relaxed and heavier your legs are on the roller, the more you can pin the skin and start to move the connective tissue or the fascia underneath. One leg at a time is a great choice. And if this is feeling really good for you and you're feeling like, yes, there's some tenderness there, you can spend 10-15 minutes on your hamstring. This is wonderful, especially if your back has been bothering you or your hips have been bothering you. Make sure you do both legs. You can get down here before bed and just spend a lot of time on the hamstrings, and it will really hydrate the legs as well as up into your torso. And then you wait. Take a breath in and exhale. Then we move it down to lower hamstring. Make sure the roller is still on the muscle and not the back of the knee on the joint. And then go ahead. You can do both legs at one time, keeping all the leg nice and heavy and relaxed. You can do one at a time, which allows you to get a little more to the inner and outer thigh as well. There's various melt moves that we do for the outer hip and the inner thigh, which we'll do today. Make sure you do both sides. But again, if you aren't going to be doing those other movements, this is wonderful because it really does cover a lot of territory. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Next, we're going to move the roller down to your calves. So you want to land on the thickest part of the calf where you're really around the gastrocnemius. And then depending on how your calves feel, you can either cross your left leg over your right, but if that feels like too much compression, it feels too tender, then just take your foot off to the side and you can do the calf just on its own. So I'm going to cross my left leg over the right. You have that option. What's most important here is two things. One, that you keep your feet relaxed. At the beginning, as you're learning, you're going to catch your feet almost resisting, especially if your calves are tender, the compression. Instead, relax your feet, check in, cue with your breath. And the second piece is that, again, the pressure of your glide is consistent. So as my knee folds, I think about my calf pressing into the front of the roller. And as my knee unfolds or extends, I press into the top of the roller. Again, go exploring. Feel how the very back of the calf feels. Tip the leg out and get a little more on the lateral side of the calf and see how that feels. And then you can turn in. Now, if all of this feels tender, just pick a spot for today, knowing that we are impacting more than just the area we're gliding on. Check that your feet are still relaxed. Focus on your spot for about 3 breaths. And then you stop and you have 2 choices for the glide. The first is to circle your bottom foot. And if you're looking for something a little more, you can also rock your calf side to side. But if it feels really tender or it's really ropey, then you're better to stick with the circle. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Now you can move the roller down a little bit, but you still want to stay in the thicker part of the calf. Relax your feet and then go ahead into your glide. Sometimes we might feel referral points when we're pressing into the calves or other body parts. For example, if you feel a lot of hamstring tension, but when you're pressing on your calf and you're doing your glide, you feel that refer up into the hamstring, it could be a sign that tight calves could be actually causing tension in your hamstring. And it's always a reminder of where the pain isn't always where the problem. So once you've found a spot you want to focus on, just tighten the glide, keeping the pressure of the glide consistent in both directions, and check relaxed. Next, you stop. We go into our shear where you circle the ankle. Same thing. If you have a lot of stuck stress in the calves, you can spend 4 or 5 points on the calves, and that's fantastic. However, today we're just doing 2. You're going to wait, take a focused breath in, and exhale. Great. Let's do the left leg. So moving the roller, I just use my right foot to guide it so that the roller is sitting under the thickest part of my calf. I cross my right leg over my left. I've relaxed my feet. I start the glide where my knee is just folding and unfolding, and I'm keeping the consistency of the pressure of the glide the same in both directions. If you are having issues with circulation, throbbing legs, restless legs, pins and needles in the feet, and you do sit a lot, then this is wonderful, not just for hydrating fascia, but also improving circulation and blood flow into the lower limb. Once you've found a spot, focus your glide right there. Then we stop and we circle the ankle. So again, once you pick your spot to glide on, 3 breaths with the shear, about 3 breaths, and then we move on. We wait, take another breath in, and exhale. Move the roller down just a little bit, find another spot, relax your feet, and start your glide. We consider the calf your second heart. So we want the calf muscles to be nice and supple, because when the calf muscles have the suppleness, they are actually what moves the blood flow and lymphatic flow back up to the heart. So we want to have really good, healthy, supple calves so that we can help with the circulation, blood flow, and lymphatic removal of waste in the body. Circle your ankle. Notice how relaxing this feels. So what a great thing to do also before bed. Wait, take a focused breath in, and exhale. And then we bring the roller up. So we're just going to do one more compression move here. There are many more, but this one I like to do, which is the inner thigh glide and shear, because this brings hydration not only to support if you have knee pain, hip pain, or growing pain, but it also really helps to feed up into your pelvic floor, which will help with abdomen, will help with back. So lying on your side, your arm is being used as a pillow. You're going to bring the roller up and line it with more your head down as opposed to being down low by the legs. You're going to take the roller, straighten it out so the roller is an arm's distance away, and then you're going to tip the bottom of the roller towards you. We bring our knee and shin on top of the roller, and then you straighten your leg and put your toe down. The roller, we want it to land just above your knee on your inner thigh. You're going to place your hand down and moving from your upper torso to your pelvis in equal timing, so this arm is guiding it, we start our glide. So here we're just gliding about 2 inches above your knee. If you're not feeling much on the inside of your inner thigh, just above your knee, you can tip your knee and toe down and get a little bit more onto the front of thigh. So again, you're looking for points of tenderness, and that's what you want to land on. Choose your position, keep the consistency of the pressure present, and then we stop. You can flex your foot, and you have a couple of options for your shear. 1, you can bend and straighten your knee, or 2, you can lower and lift your heel. Notice I'm moving from my hip. I like this one because I always encourage to get motion movement in our hip joint as often as we can. And then we wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. So now we move the roller up the thigh so it's mid-inner thigh. Your hand comes back down, your leg is long, heavy, and relaxed. Using this arm to move your shoulders, your ribs, and pelvis in equal timing, maintaining the consistency of the pressure in both directions. Again, tip the leg back a little, tip the leg forward until you find a spot that you want to focus on. We glide for about 3 breaths, slowing it down so that we give the tissue time to register what you're feeling. Then we flex our foot, and you can either bend and straighten your knee, or you can lift and lower your heel for your shear. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Now we want to get right up in the groin. So I'm going to come up onto my forearms, and I'm going to walk my upper body to the right. I'm using my left leg. So I'm moving my upper body away from the leg that's on the roller. I let my knee be bent. I'm hiking up in my hip a little bit. And then I move my body so that the roller comes and just touches up against my pubic bone. I want to prop myself up on this knee so my pelvis is up and my back is protected. Careful that you don't let the back arch and the pelvis sag down. Lift the hips, press into the forearm, and now we're using the upper body to move our body along the roller. So you want to get right up in the groin, leg is heavy and relaxed. Again, check things out. Change your angles of your leg, of your hip. Find a spot that feels tender, bump up against it, keeping your upper body strong, your pelvis slightly elevated, your core engaged. From here, you want to carefully come back to your sides, be mindful of your shoulders. And for this one, the shear that I like is hand on the roller, and then you do what we call cross friction. If you like the flexed foot and the lift and lower, please take that as a choice. I just find this one gets in there quite effectively. But listen to what feels good for you, and then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Wonderful. This is one that I do if I ever feel any pain or strain on the inside of my knee or up in my hip or groin. It really is fantastic, and it wakes up your whole pelvic floor. Okay, so setting up. The roller is from your head down. You're going to take the roller, place it arm's distance away from you, and then you're going to take the bottom of the roller and tip it towards you. All we're doing is we're getting it so you're cross fiber. So if my inner thigh fibers run this way, I want the roller to be cross fiber to that. So now we take our leg up, you place your knee and lower leg onto the roller, and then you're going to straighten your leg out, put your toe on the ground, and the roller will land just above the inside of your knee on your inner thigh. Top hand comes on the mat, and now we use the arm to move our whole torso in equal timing. So notice here, I'm not just moving from my pelvis, but my whole body so that my spine is in a nice, stable, safe position. The consistency of the pressure is key. And again, go exploring. If you don't feel anything right on the inside above the knee, tip the knee and toe down a little bit and notice how that feels. Once you pick a spot, you're going to tighten up the glide into that area, bumping up against the tender part. You just want to meet the tenderness. And then we stop. You can flex your foot. You can either bend and straighten your knee, or you can lower and lift your heel. And then we wait. Take a focused breath in. Give the tissue time to adapt. And exhale. Move the roller up to more mid-inner thigh. Hand goes down. Whole body moves in equal timing. The movement of the glide, notice my tempo. It's not very fast because I want to keep the consistency of the pressure there. And if I move too fast, my body doesn't notice as much. Find a spot, focus the glide in that area, and then you can flex your foot and either bend and straighten your knee or lower and lift your heel, whatever feels better for you. Good. And then you wait. Take a breath in. This is bringing our oxygen, blood flow, nutrients to all the tissues. And exhale. Now you're going to come up onto your forearm, walk your upper body away from the roller, and then just press your leg into the roller and get up into the deep inner hip joint. And so now we go from here. So our hip joint is very, very tightly bound with muscles and ligaments and tendons. And with our inner thigh or adductor muscles, we've got the attachments of our adductor longus and brevis. We have our gracilis. We have many muscles that connect our inner hip to our pelvis. And then we stop. Carefully lie down, making sure your shoulders are safe. Place your hand on the roller and just go into your cross friction. If that feels like it's too deep, then you can always flex your foot and go into your lift and lower of your heel. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Good. So now we need to move this new fresh fluid in through the body. So with the compression sequence, what we're doing is we're bringing hydration, we're releasing stuck stress, and we're bringing hydration and fresh fluid flow into the body. So now we want to move it. We want to work with the circulation and the motion. So there's a couple ways that we can do this. One, we can rinse using the roller. So you can place your lower leg onto the roller, and we turn the foot in and we go up the inside and down the back. Up the inside and down the back. I'm using my arms to support. You can let your pelvis sort of drag or just float along the mat so that you don't have too much strain. If this doesn't feel good on your upper body, you can use your hands to rinse your calf up the front and down the back. Then we'll do the same leg, but we'll do the hamstring. So you can just move the roller out of the way so this leg isn't running interference. And we do the same thing. Turn the hip in. We go up the inside and down the back. Up the inside and down the back. Again, if supporting your body into your arms and hands doesn't work for you, you can always use your hands where you go up the front and down the back. So the fluid flow runs in the same direction of our body all the time. It runs up the front of our body and down the back. Notice I did my calves separate from my hamstrings, from my thigh, because we don't want to ever run the roller over our joints. So let's do the other side. So we take the calf, we have the roller out of the way so it doesn't interfere with the roller, and then we go up the inside and down the back. You can use your hands as I've demonstrated just a moment ago, and we're doing just your calf. It feels so good to get that fluid flow. Good. We do that about 4 times, and then bring it up above the knee, and then we do our back of thigh. Same thing, up the inside, down the back. So I turn my hip and foot in, and then out. Good. So this is a lower body compression sequence. It's a great start to melting through your pelvis and your legs. And in another video, I'll show you other melt maps that we can do that use the quads. We get into our IT band, and that we also start to do some lengthening moves, and we can also do some neural strength moves. So, but this is a great one to do if you're feeling tight before going for a workout or post-workout. I tend to do melt both pre-workout in preparation and post-workout so that I can release any stuck stress that gets accumulated from my workout. So thank you for watching. Look for more videos to help